I'm curious, did you click on this video today because you're feeling a little bit lost, maybe underconfident and underqualified for the role that you're in as people manager? Well, I want you to know that you're not alone in those feels. I mean, I felt that way before myself, certainly. And I've talked to so many other managers to know that the emotions that you're feeling around this are quite normal. At the end of the day, transitions are just really hard. And this transition specifically, right, within the context of management, it's harder than people say it is, right? It's harder than people are talking about because, you're given a pretty big responsibility. It's probably the biggest responsibility you've received thus far in your career. And from day one, there's a lot of expectations and focus on you, and you want to do a really good job. And so there's that pressure, plus the pressure of a lot of people looking to you for guidance, advice, and answers, all while you're trying to find your footing. And again, you're doing so in a public arena. And so, yeah, I think you should feel a lot of different emotions. It's normal to feel that way. And so I'm really glad that you decided to click on this specific video today, because regardless of if it's because you felt lost or underconfident or whatever, something called you. You felt something, right? And that's why you clicked on this today. And I'm really glad you did, because my hope is that by the end of this video, you feel a boost of energy and motivation to keep going. Because I think that someone like you that cares, you need to stay in the role, because we don't really have a whole lot of leaders in management positions that care, but someone like you that cares, I want to do whatever I can to keep you in this role, because you're somebody that's going to make a difference. In today's video, what I'm going to discuss is 4 practical ways that you can build your confidence as a leader. I'm also going to talk about the number 1 ingredient that I think hampers a lot of new managers from the growth that they're looking for. And I'm also going to talk, just lastly, about a perspective shift that I think is really important if you feel like you're not necessarily cut out for management. Before we dive into these confidence boosters that I'm talking about, I think it's really necessary for us to take a step back and just consider some of the reasons why a lot of new managers feel underconfident as they're getting started in their role. And I think one of the biggest factors is confusion. It's like you have this title as manager, but you're still doing IC work, so you feel like you should be doing more, but you're not entirely sure what that more is supposed to be. And then what makes it worse is that nobody sits you down at the very beginning of your role to say, hey, this is what success looks like in your role. Here's what it means to be a manager and the impact that you have within our organization. It's like you're trying to achieve a target that was never really well defined for you in the first place. And so as a result, you feel like you're constantly winging it, which makes you feel consistently underconfident. I, generally speaking, just do not think that organizations do a good enough job of setting up their managers for success. That's the truth. But I also think it's important that you do something about it too, right? That you take responsibility of your own leadership journey, because your confidence, or being confident in your role, is really important. Think about it this way. Did you get into a car with someone who didn't seem confident in their ability to drive the car? No, right? Or would you get into an Uber, for example, with an Uber driver who was not confident in being able to get you to the final destination? No, right? You wouldn't trust it. Same thing applies within the context of management. You are underconfident as a leader, know that your team can feel it and sense it. That can cause disrespect. That can cause a lack of trust when they feel or sense as though their manager is not confident. And so while you might think it is something that is internal that only you know about, know that it is impacting others around you as well. Again, I've been around long enough to observe teams, right? And I can see how even people problems, or having consistent people problems, strings back to an underconfident manager, and a manager who is not confident in being assertive, a manager that is not confident in making decisions or having the tough conversations at the right time. All these things stem back often to an underconfident manager. Now, it might not be that the manager is totally underconfident, but maybe they're underconfident in certain areas. And as a result, like I said, it's impacting others around you. So what do you do? Where do you begin in building this confidence that I'm talking about? Well, I would love to tell you that it's as easy as tip 1, 2, 3, but it is simply not. There's no quick fix when it comes to building your confidence. And that's because of the fact that it all starts up here with your thoughts. I often chuckle at all the articles and videos that there are out there that tell you here's how to speak confident and sound confident and to look confident in doing XYZ. Now, yeah, these techniques can be really helpful, but they're helpful when it's built on a really solid foundation. And that solid foundation is all about your thought patterns. You first have to be aware of your thoughts and figure out if the thoughts that you currently have are serving you or if they are a disservice to you. I mean, think about it. What are the things that you say to yourself on a consistent basis? When I think back to when I first started, right? I remember some of the things that I said to myself were not kind, to be honest. I mean, I often felt like I was not where I should be, right? I felt unqualified, like I shouldn't have been there. And so I would often say things like, oh, Mac, you're a baby manager, or you shouldn't even be here. What are you doing here? I'd often say those things. And I actually got called out on it one time from one of my mentors at a team meeting. He said, you gotta stop saying that. And he was right. I mean, we talked about it a little bit. And that's why actually when I heard another one of my students mention it on one of the calls, I had to tell her, hey, stop that immediately, because I know where that spirals and where that takes you. And so that's actually how I came up with that sentence, which is, you were chosen for this role for a reason. I came up with that because it was an anchor for me. Not an anchor, it's what I anchored myself in quite often when I felt like I didn't belong, or when I felt like I didn't have the skills yet. I was like, wait, I don't have the skills yet? Yes, but I was chosen to be here for a reason. I'm in this room with all these people making these decisions where they're asking me for my thoughts and perception for a reason. And so that's why I repeat it to you guys all the time, because and those thoughts, the things that you say to yourself, absolutely matters. It's that foundation block that I'm talking about that will help you build your confidence. I'm sure you've had those days where you're like, hey, look at me, I'm killing it in my role. And then other days when you're like, wait, what happened to me today? How did I possibly fail so badly? But the problem is that often those days, those bad days, take front and center on our mind, and that's the only thing that we see. But I gotta tell you, you're probably doing a lot better than you think you are. I mean, I've seen it firsthand with my accelerator students. Sometimes they come to our calls noticeably tired, drained, perhaps even having one of those bad days that I'm talking about where they feel like a failure. So instantly we'll be like, hey, share with us your wins, or share something good that you can in total about your management journey thus far. And so they begin talking, and then instantly everybody else's face starts to light up because we're genuinely excited for them. And then as a result of seeing the energy in the room, they feel uplifted and they realize, oh, wait, I am improving. I am getting better. Sometimes, right, we'll ask the question and still the person is like, oh, I don't know if I have anything to share. And then others in the room will be like, okay, you might not have something to share today because you're feeling like you're in a little bit of a funk, but I want to point out that you have grown, and here's the areas that you've grown in, and here's how I've been inspired and impacted by you. And then they get that boost of energy that they're looking for. All this to say, again, you're probably doing better than you think. An outsider's perspective is a really great one to have. So what's the moral of the story? Acknowledge your good days and share your wins with people that will celebrate them with you. Now, I am not at all saying that you shouldn't acknowledge your bad days. In fact, I do think you should acknowledge your bad day because there are so many learning lessons to be found in those bad days. I've often talked about the fact that I kept a journal during my transition period, right? Where I would write down my highlights, but I would also write down the not so good stuff. And what I found in that kind of practice is that I would often find that on the bad days, there were certain things that I did, decisions and maybe approaches that I took that actually led to that bad outcome. And so I would look at it as a lesson, as a gem that I would take with me for future situations and instances and do, kind of like vow to do better the next time. And so I want you to do the same thing. Do you have a cadence right now where you are debriefing on either the week or the month, where you are looking at all the good things and looking at all the bad things and saying to yourself, what needs to change and be adjusted as I move on? Because guaranteed, if you keep doing that, you're going to see that you're building muscle mass, but you're also going to tweak your approach as you keep going, and that is going to build your confidence. All that being said though, this kind of inner work that I am referring to, while it is important, isn't gonna just make confidence appear magically, right? And that's because of the fact that this is only a piece of the puzzle. You know, I think a lot of people assume that because I have this YouTube channel and appeared like generally confident on camera, that this kind of thing comes naturally to me. When the truth is that public speaking used to be my number one fear. You have to remember, I'm actually introverted. And so for a really long time, I struggled a lot with speaking up in any sort of format. And I think it stemmed from this belief that I had that nothing I had to say was really that valuable. Like, why would anyone want to hear what I had to say? And so I often shied away in situations where people were like asking me for my advice or asking me for whatever, right? I would often shy away from this. But I think I always intuitively knew that people that are really good communicators are able to achieve successful outcomes. And that's because I had observed enough situations where I watched those in their career, specifically people that had impactful positions. I watched and I observed them, and I realized that something that they all had in common, at least, was this ability to verbalize, and to verbalize effectively and concisely and clearly. They did that really well. And so I looked at that and I said, that's the key. If I want to progress in my career, I better get this communication thing and this fear thing of speaking up and in public and on the fly under wrap, because otherwise I will never get there myself. Something that I see come up quite often in the applications that we receive for the new Manager Accelerator program is managers that straight up like take themselves out of running by saying, hey, like I'm not cut out for management because I don't have XYZ, talent or capability. And oftentimes when I like dig into it, I realize it's because they observe some leader, that they've seen either TV or whatever the case might be, some leader that they've observed, and they realize, well, I don't have that natural talent. And so as a result, I don't feel like I can get their results. I'm not extroverted. So because I'm not extroverted, I'm not going to be good at building relationships, XY, fill in the blanks. And I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't assume. Right? You shouldn't assume that because someone looks a certain way on the outside, that it means that they weren't putting in the work to achieve that. You don't know how much practice and how much reps went into helping them be who they are today. You just don't know. And so you shouldn't take yourself out of the running because of what you see on the outside. Instead, what I want you to do is ask yourself, hey, where do I feel like I'm lacking? Do I feel like I'm lacking in my ability to build relationships, to build trust, to earn respect, to, be clear and concise in my communication? What is that specific thing that I feel like I'm lacking in? And what can I do to improve in that area? How can I properly do the reps so I look good doing it too? That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to take yourself out of the running. Whatever it is that makes you feel less than, don't let it overtake you. Instead, make it a goal to put yourself in situations where you can practice honing your skills and your capacity to do better in that area. Now, will it be uncomfortable at first? Hells yeah. It's like dipping your toe in the ocean, right? At first, that first dip of the toe is going to be pretty cold, right? And then you're going to pop back out because you're like, oh, hells no, that's cold. But then as you keep going, right, you keep putting another toe in, then you got your whole foot in, and then you got your 2 feet in, and then your whole body's in, and you're like, oh, this water's not so bad, even though it started out pretty cold. That's kind of how it is when you're like getting into a groove of doing something that you're not comfortable in. The first dip is hard, but as you keep going, it's going to get comfortable. But you have to push past that first dip. If you do the first dip and you don't go back, you're never going to do it. Just keep going and know that it will get progressively better as long as, like I said, you put yourself in those spaces and try as hard as you can to push past the discomfort. Okay, but even though practice is important and stepping into discomfort is important, that on its own is not going to guarantee success. And that is because it requires one more ingredient. Let me give you an example. So one of my students, Juanita, had to do a performance improvement plan with a team member of hers that was unfortunately underperforming. Now, it was her first time doing a PIP, and so naturally she was a little bit anxious. But the one thing that she did know was that she wanted this performance improvement plan to be done in a way that was both empathetic and direct, both in her ability to communicate it and to document it, right? That is what she knew for certain. Now, it would have been very easy for Juanita to go to trusted Google and just type into the search bar, how do I do a PIP while being empathetic and direct with my team member, and just use what, Google spit out for her and, do it with her limited experience and knowledge. It would have been very easy for her to do that, but she didn't. And that's because Juanita knew that she needed this one more ingredient that would make a world of a difference. And that ingredient is feedback. Advice of a thought partner, of someone who is an expert that can say to you, hey, I need you to adjust your approach here in order to achieve this result that you're looking for. And I'm happy to say that because Juanita knew intuitively that this other ingredient was important to her success, that she ended up having a really good conversation, which, by the way, could have turned out very differently, because usually these types of conversation can create some tension, but it didn't. And she was able to, like she wanted, deliver it in a way that was both empathetic and direct. Not only that, but she actually earned herself some kudos from her manager, because her manager reached out to her and said, wow, you did such a good job. You need to teach other people how to do this as well. So it just goes to show, right? When we have the right person in our corner helping us with our approach, how much of a difference it can make. So what's the moral of the story? Practice is important, but so is feedback. Otherwise, how do you know where you need to make the improvement? Now, I hope that this video was able to give you a lot of tangible strategies around how you can build your confidence as a new manager. But in case it was not abundantly clear before, I need you to know this. Confidence takes time. It takes time. And bad days are guaranteed. And so I hope you will cut yourself some slack, because you need to. Building confidence is difficult. It takes time, but it is so much easier when you have support. If you've been with me for some time, then you've heard me say before that, yes, I was very underconfident at first as a leader, right? It was really tough in the beginning for me, but the catalyst of my change was as a result of leaning on two mentors who made a world of a difference in my life because of the advice that they gave me, because of the feedback they gave me, because of the safe space that they allowed me to practice with them before I practiced on other human beings. That was really important to me. And because of the impact that they made on my career, I took basically the same frameworks that they gave me, right? The same kind of idea, and I created this space within the New Manager Accelerator program so that you can gain the knowledge, right? The skills itself, so that you can practice these skills and get the feedback so that I can help you with your own approach. Because I've seen how it made a difference for me, and I've definitely seen how it's made a difference for so many other students who have gone before you. So if you are tired, my friend, of piecemealing solutions that you find off the internet with a book here, with a tip here, if you're tired of being on the struggle bus and not getting any closer to where you want to be, then definitely book a call with me. Book a call with me to learn more about the Accelerator program and to learn about if it would be a good fit for you. So the link for the Accelerator program you can find in the description box below, or you can go to makitaandrews.com/NMA. I'm looking forward to talking to you. All right, regardless of what you do today, I want you to know that I am rooting for you and not to give up, because we need you. We need leaders like you. All right, my friend, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Do not forget to keep smiling, and I'll see you in the next one.